Hello, and in this video you'll learn how to create this awesome website that uses the parallax effect. It'll be created with React, Vite, and Tailwind CSS. You will not need to install any other dependencies or packages. And after this video, you'll easily be able to integrate this technology into your own website. And without further ado, let's begin the video. Let's begin creating our website. First thing we need to do is create a new folder. We'll call it Parallax, but you can call it whatever you like. Next, drag that folder into your Visual Studio Code. And you can go into full screen size. Next, click View and Terminal. And here we'll run our first command, npm create vite at latest. Here we write /, which means that the entire file and folder structure will be created inside the Parallax folder, and it will not create a new folder inside of it, which is unnecessary. Enter, and we can choose React and JavaScript. Now we can run npm install, first of all, to install all the necessary dependencies. This will create the node modules folder. As you can see, the file and folder structure is already created inside of here. This is where we'll write most of the code, inside the source folder. And as you can see, now it is installed. We can run npm run dev, and we should see a website. Control click on this link. And as you can see, we already have a website. This was created by Vite and React as a test that the website actually works. Now we'll start creating the file and folder structure for our website, and at the same time install Tailwind CSS. You can go to this website, Tailwind CSS /docs/guide/vite, and copy some of these commands. First of all, this one, npm install the Tailwind CSS post CSS auto prefixer, like this. This shouldn't take long, maybe 10 seconds. And while it does that, we can copy the next command to initialize the entire Tailwind CSS and post CSS, like this. This will create the Tailwind config file. Now we can copy this and paste it into the Tailwind config. And the final step for Tailwind CSS will be copying this and pasting it into index CSS. So we can delete everything and paste just this. Also, we can remove the app.css file as we don't need it. We'll be creating our own CSS with Tailwind. We can go to app.jsx, remove all the imports, and also remove everything inside the return statement. So now we have an empty application. We can test that Tailwind CSS is working by creating an h1, for example saying, not j1, h1, hello world, and adding a class name, for example saying text red 500, and once again running our application. And as you can see, we have a red hello world. This means that everything is working and the Tailwind CSS is successfully installed. Now we can create the components for our application. We can go into our file and folder structure, and in our source folder, create a components folder. In here, we can make 3 components: navbar.jsx, run RAFCE here. To be able to use these snippets, you can go to extensions and install this extension. Next, create a component called footer .jsx and also run RAFC. And finally, middle section .jsx and also run RAFCE. We'll create one more file. It will be index.js and it will house all of our components. This will allow us to more easily import our components into other files like app.jsx and make the code look cleaner. For this, we'll import all of them into here. Import navbar from navbar, import footer from footer, and import middle section from middle section. Now we have to export them from here. Export, navbar, footer, and middle section. Finally, we can go into our app and see if this worked. In here, we can say import and in curly brackets, navbar, footer, and middle section. If we didn't do the index.js, we would have to import them all separately. So for example, import navbar from ./components/navbar and each one separately. This, in my opinion, is much cleaner. Now we can see if they are actually inside. So we can say navbar, footer, and middle section. The actual parallax effect will be created in this file and in this component. You can now add the images that you're going to be using to your assets folder over here. I've already added mine. You can either download them from the Google Drive link I put in the description, or you can use your own images. It's your choice. The first section we're going to work on is our navbar. Let's go into it, and here we are. We can remove all of this and start by giving some classes to the main wrapper div. First of all, we're going to say w-screen, meaning the width of the navbar will be the same as the screen, which is obviously necessary. Secondly, we can give it a height. For example, each dash 200 pixels. We might change this later. And we need to give it a color, a background color. To get good background colors, I suggest using this website or anything like it. So we can copy this color I've already selected, or you can choose your own. Once again, doesn't matter. And we can say bg dash square brackets and paste in this color. Now let's see if this actually worked. As you can see, the navbar is there, although it's quite large. So we can actually make it smaller in the future. Maybe 150 pixels will do for now. Like this. Alright, next we'll actually be adding the parallax effect. First thing we'll need to do is go to our app.jsx and under the navbar, we'll create a div which will be holding the background image. In here we can say class name, bg-fixed, bg-center, bg-cover. Then style. Let's go outside of these brackets and back inside of them again. And here we can say background image, colon. Then these diagonal ones, not the normal ones. These ones you can find in the top left corner of your keyboard. And you can say URL, normal brackets, $, and curly brackets. And here you'll paste the name of your image. I've already imported one of the images called hand. From over here, you simply import the name which you have in your assets folder. Then you can simply write hand. Now we can go back to our site and we won't see anything changing. As this isn't done yet, inside this div, we can say another div, class name h-600 pixels, bg-opacity 75, flex, justify center, padding top 80 pixels. Now we will see the image. If we want this image to be smaller, or the part of the image that you can see to be smaller, this gap, then we can simply change this height, for example, to 200 pixels to see a marginal difference. Although now we can't exactly scroll, so we can't really see the effect properly. But you see what I did there. We can simply change this gap over here. Now we'll actually add a proper middle section. Let's go like this, cover the middle section in a div, and say class name w-screen h-400 pixels bg-blue-500 for now. And as you can see, now we have this sort of parallax effect, where the image essentially stays in the same place and the other sections move around it. But this effect becomes much better if we add multiple images. So we can simply copy all of this and paste it under the middle section and import a new image, or we can keep the same one. If we keep the same one, it will look like this, as if there's simply one static image, which also looks pretty cool. However, we can add another one. For example, import robot from ./assets/robot.jpg. And instead of hand here, write robot. Now, when we scroll, we have this image, and it seamlessly merges into it. To make it look like there's really two different images, we can make this section larger. The middle section, for example, to 800 pixels. This is how you can manipulate it. And finally, we can create some kind of footer. So in the footer, we can say class name h-400 pixels bg-yellow-500. For now, we're simply dividing some sections so that you can see the parallax effect. Later on, we'll be actually creating the website and making it look good. And now if we scroll, as you can see, this all changes. And if we want these gaps to be different for both images, we can go back to our app and change that. So for example, we can make this 800 pixels. And now this gap will be just about the whole screen. We can make it 700 pixels for it to be not the whole screen, like this. And this gap will remain the same. If you're enjoying the video so far, please consider liking and subscribing. Now, before we actually start working on the main part of the website, the actual texts, we can do some other cool things. First of all, you don't necessarily need this section. If you want, you could technically just remove this middle section and it will look like this. Quite cool. Another thing, you can actually put things on top of these images. There are two ways to do this. First of all, go inside these divs and write something in them. So we can, for example, say h1 hello. And we'll find this hello over here. Another way, which we're going to be doing now, is absolute. Absolute class name means that this element does not interact with any other elements. So we can say image, class name, absolute, and for example, top dash 300 pixels for now. And let's import another image. Import city from ./assets/city.web. Now, what we can do is say source, city. As you can see, now we have the city on top of this element, but it's a little, the positioning isn't perfect. So we can say 250 pixels to see where that will lead us. And that is just about perfect, but not quite. And this seems good enough. So now we have this element on top of this image, and that moves along with the other sections, but that does not interact with the image itself. If, for example, we were to have something inside of here, so in the same h1, hello, we can make it much bigger. For example, text dash 50 pixels, text dash bold, text dash red dash 500. In this case, this thing also moves with the element, just like everything else. So yeah, now we'll actually begin working on the navbar and the other sections to make them look good. Let's begin working on the navbar. In here we can add some styles, flex dash row, gap dash 10, justify dash center, and items dash center. This will position everything in the center. Next, we can also do some imports, or rather one import react from // assets / react.svg. If you've created the React app and didn't delete any of the images, you will automatically have this SVG already here. And here we could say image source equals React, a div with a class name of flex dash row gap dash 10 cursor dash pointer. In here, h1 home, we can copy this multiple times and say about and contact. For example, usually these would be linked to other pages or other websites. You would need the React Router DOM for this. I have a video explaining it. And in here we can say text dash white, not white, but white, text dash, actually font dash semi bold, like this. Now we can look back at our website. And now we have a logo. You can put your own logo or stay with the React one for now. And we have these buttons that have a cursor over them, a proper cursor. But now we need to make them bigger. So text dash 28 pixels. And here, class name, h dash 90 pixels, w dash 90 pixels. Now we have a proper navbar with a logo and 3 links for pages. You can obviously make more links if you want and make them actual links. Now let's move on to the middle section. Alright, now we'll head back to our app and change it a little bit. First of all, we'll make this BG a little different. So we'll make it like this. Go to app.jsx and say BG is the same as the navbar BG. Then we could go to the middle section, remove this text, and say class name w-900 pixels mx-auto, which is another way to say that it should be in the center. Next, h-400 pixels, I believe. bg- we could go over here and copy this for our bg. And let's see what we currently have. This should be good for now. Then we could add some text to it. We can say flex and justify dash center. Now we'll put an h1 over here with the title, which will say have class name, text dash 50 pixels, font dash semi-bold, and in here we could say text dash center, and here margin top dash 10. We'll see if this properly worked, and we can make this text dash white. Under this, we can put flex dash call gap dash 5. We could a p tag with some text. This is simply Latin text for now. You can put whatever text you like, and class name will also make it white, text dash white, but make it smaller, for example text dash 25 pixels. And this is quite decent. We could say max dash w dash 800 pixels. Although this did kind of ruin it, so we will not do this for now, as it already fits in the entire box. And now we can start working on our footer. We can scroll down and start to change some things. First of all, we'll add an image that will say source, and we'll also import our logo, which is React in our case. React from /assets/React. Then we can say React, make the image quite big. So h dash class name h dash 180 pixels, so double what it was before. W dash 180 pixels. Next, here we could say flex, justify dash center, items dash center, like so. We can add SVG over here for the file to actually work. We can't just enter the name without the extension. So now this works. We can add another div to wrap our image and our future h1 tag. So here we can add an h1, class name, and over here once again class name, flex dash call, gap dash 2, company, and over here we can say text dash 50 pixels, text dash white, font dash semi-bold. This doesn't look perfectly aligned, so we can simply move this image slightly. Margin left dash 3. And now this looks pretty much perfect. The last thing we'll do is change this from yellow to our main color. So we can go to our navbar and copy this. Say bg dash, and don't forget to add the hash, otherwise it will not recognize it. This is a very simple footer, but if it works, it works. So yeah, this was our app that uses the parallax effect to create these static images. And we have some simple navbar and footer. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.